happy to hosting all of you today. And yeah, I see lots of people are joining right now. So can you please quickly type in the chat if the sound is good? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, perfect. And while other people are joining, as always, in the beginning, I would like to see where you are from, guys. And yeah, can you please type, first of all, where you're from and your job role? So we'll see whether today we have more marketing people or sales people, because that would be a really interesting webinar. Today, I'm co-hosting it with Scott, who is well-known sales leader. So today we are going to share the perspective on LinkedIn marketing, what we used to call Allbound marketing. So marketing, how to align marketing and sales activities. So I'm really curious to see where you are all from. So Slovenia, sales and marketing, sales, Belgium, Poland, marketing and sales, Houston, marketing and sales.
It's all over. It's all over.
Dubai, marketing, UK, Atlanta, Ukraine, Canada, Norway, cool, India, Amsterdam. Yeah, lots of, so yeah, I feel we're missing people from Australia and New Zealand, but that's because of time zone, obviously. Okay.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
you are.
a few words about me. So I'm co-founder of fullfunnel.io, which is my consulting company, and how I plan this marketing planning software as well. I wrote last year a LinkedIn B2B marketing and bound book together with Ricardo Gikira from Uptrust. We hosted a webinar 2 weeks ago with him about ABM on LinkedIn, and I would like to present as well some ideas from that book today with you. I'm founder of B2B Marketers and Founders Community, and actually spent as well 15 years in B2B marketing and sales. But that's enough about us. So let's focus on what we want to share with you and how. And the first part of our presentation will be about building a personal brand and social selling. And I feel it's really important because this week I sent, just before, probably several days before our webinar, I sent a survey to you guys asking questions like, what are the challenges you have with LinkedIn? What are the outcomes you're expecting from LinkedIn? And around 30% of people actually told that the biggest challenge for them is defining and setting up a content strategy for LinkedIn demand generation. Basically, the questions were what I should be posting about, how can I involve my marketing and sales team, what should be, how my how my content strategy should look like, and how actually can I generate opportunities from this, because it's not clear. So should we wait passively for leads or what? And basically, this is what we want to cover today in this webinar. So I'm giving a word to Scott. You can share your screen now.
Sure. Okay. Perfect. All right. How's everybody doing? Thanks for joining. Thanks, Andre, for the warm intro. Let me catch up to where you were. But long story short, yeah, so sales and marketing leader. Currently, I build out SaaS products. So, if you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see that there's a small sub brand called Swift or Excitem. And we're a Grass Valley company. And we build out SaaS products, take SaaS products to market, and I head up all sales and marketing activity. But today we're going to be talking about LinkedIn, social selling. Is it a good, should you spend your time there? Is it a waste of your time? And obviously, I'm going to be leaning in the direction of it's a good place and a good use of your time. But we're going to dissect why. Because when you spend time on LinkedIn, when you're building a brand, when you're conducting outbound on LinkedIn, you have to do it properly. And it's not just something that you can do without any strategy, of course. You have to understand why it works, how it can be effective, how you can optimize it, both your outbound as well as your profile. And I'm going to go through a strategy that I use myself, I use for my team, and I've seen used effectively amongst various high growth organizations that really adopt social selling or LinkedIn. I'm not Andre, I'm not monitoring the chat as I do this. So if people are saying stuff or whatnot, let me know. But right now I'm just going to go through and keep chatting. So feel free to interrupt me if however you want to run the webinar. But let's first speak about, the old sales method, which obviously can be a component of a new sales method, but we still have to look at a new sales model as well. So what this is really highlighting, this small little graphic, is the dichotomy between what sales was for a very long time versus what I'm sort of championing now, which is social selling, building a brand, and then using that brand to go outbound, as well as fill that top of funnel for your inbound, and basically use your brand to sell. So the old sales model, cold, you're going pure outbound, maybe a little bit of inbound, but you have cold calls, demos, you have qualified leads, and you're walking those through your sales cycle. For the new sales model, yes, you still have outbound components, but now you're leveraging your social network. We're going to speak about LinkedIn today, but depending on your industry or your market, I'm assuming a lot of this is B2B, or a lot of leaders here in B2B, but you could also be using Twitter or Instagram, depending, or any social, really, depending on who you're trying to target. When you're building a brand, you're focusing on educating, you're focusing on building out a profile that allows you to position your company or yourself as a subject matter expert or a thought leader on a particular topic that your potential buyer would be interested in discovering more about. And when you consistently put out content on social, I'm going to draw a parallel similar to when you're trying to SEO your blog on your website. You're putting out content that people care about, that your potential buyer would find interesting. You're answering questions. These are all sort of at a very high level, the types of pieces of content that you would put out. And as you build this content portfolio, this brand, you will start to build out a brand on a social network, which you can then use to go into and to sell into. And we'll get into all these details later on. I just want to frame the dichotomy and the difference between the two. So what are some of the benefits of social selling? So when you have a brand, when people know who you are, when you're a trusted company or you're a trusted individual, when people look to buy a product and they already know who you are, these are some stats. So these were stats, and I linked it there, and you can figure how they did their research. But there's a 39% the benefit. According to the people they polled, there's a 39%, I guess not reduction in contact time, but 39% of individuals said one of the primary benefits was the reduced contact time. There was a 33% grouping that said that there was an increased number of leads. 31% polled said there was deeper relationships with clients. 24% polled there was improved lead conversion rate, and 14% polled said there was shorter sales cycles. So this is the benefit or the end result of building a successful brand on social media. These are some of the things that you can try to achieve with your own brand or your own organization. And that's why we're going to try and show you how to build out a brand on social, as well as go outbound and attract inbound on social effectively. Because if you can do it effectively, then you can see the end results. You can see people that have actually experienced these things in comparison to not having any brand. And just, for example, going outbound with a website, this is the traditional way a company would operate. Okay, so what is social selling? Let's define the basics just so we're all on the same page. So social selling is creating a professional brand. So, to read through this, today's world of B2B buyers are very selective and work with vendors they trust. Access to information is at an all-time high. A strong professional brand, it's showing you're an active participant in your industry. This leads to more awareness, more inquiries from prospects. It leads to more response to your communications. If you're reaching out to somebody via email or LinkedIn, you look at the different stats, depending on where you look. When a buyer does research on buying a product, or when a buyer is looking into buying a product, they're doing research across social, across web, across everywhere they can possibly find information. And they've already figured out 50 to 70% of the information that they're going to be using to make a buying decision before they even engage with an SDR, a sales development rep, an inside sales rep. So they're doing a ton of research before they even contact your organization. So what that means is when they're doing their research, you want to be putting information in front of them that's creating that bond, that trust. And that can be done from an organizational standpoint, but it can also be done from an individual within the organization that will allow them to trust your organization. And even before they make that first call or that first discovery call with that SDR. So you're just trying to create this brand across your organization and employees so that when people are doing their research, you're sending the right messaging, really. And then like all those different points that I just listed on the previous slide, that's the end result of people trusting your brand before they even come in contact with you. Focusing on the right prospects. So if you do social selling properly, if you're targeting properly, if the content strategy that you've put together is targeting the right ideal customer profiles or the right buyer personas, then of course the right buyers are going to be attracted to you as well as your organization. And then also with social selling, you can have additional insights. You can have additional analytics. You can, for example, if we're going to talk about LinkedIn in particular, it has some of the most advanced targeting options across any social platform. Regardless of whether or not you're using paid ads or you just want to be putting out content, you can hyper target decision makers on LinkedIn. You can hyper target which industries, which companies, the headcount of the organization. If you have Sales Navigator, you can target, for example, executives who've just moved to a new organization and perhaps maybe looking to purchase some new technology. So you want to, you basically want to use the analytics that social can offer you to align what you're doing with decision makers that could be buying your product versus Facebook ads that are, there's some targeting, but not as much as LinkedIn by a long shot. Even if you're going to be looking at like keywords that people are typing in when you're perhaps SEOing your website for inbound leads, still, you have to understand that you're not able to see the individual who's actually typing in those keywords. So it's very hard to properly target an executive in an industry with a certain, organization headcount, certain organization revenue numbers. And then lastly, the benefit would be to build trusted relationships. So if you are putting out content that's resonating with the people who you want to be engaging with the audience that you want to be communicating with, and that audience would be potential buyers, you are seen as that subject matter expert or that thought leader in the industry. And you're building trust. You're building trust, again, before you even come in contact or you even jump on a call with the potential buyer. So this is social selling in a nutshell. Let's keep going. So the classic, retort or response to why somebody doesn't want to build a brand or somebody is not social selling is because it seems like a waste of time. It's, I'm going outbound on LinkedIn. I'm posting content on LinkedIn. I'm not seeing leads, or my leads are not my ICP, my target profile. So what we have to do is we have to figure out a strategy that will allow your effort and your time invested into the content, into the brand, into the outbound on LinkedIn, so that it's actually, there's a ROI on that, so that you are getting potential leads. And the reason why people don't get leads is usually because they jump onto, again, LinkedIn. That's probably the most common B2B platform. And they're just going to do outbound. That's going to yield some results, but they're not focusing on the other half of it. They're not focusing on their profile, their LinkedIn profile. They're not focusing on having any sort of content strategy or any sort of meaningful content strategy that's going to augment the results of their LinkedIn outbound. So what I want to do is I want to walk you through the basics of setting up a profile. And I think Andre's going to speak about a little bit of a content strategy so that you can basically optimize the second half of your social selling or personal brand to complete that outbound that a lot of people are already doing. I think that many business leaders will go outbound on LinkedIn, but they won't focus on the rest of it. So let's speak about the LinkedIn funnel. The LinkedIn funnel is basically just treating your LinkedIn profile like a website that's going to complement your outbound. So breaking your LinkedIn profile so that it's purposeful and useful for your business, you're breaking it into 3 components. You're breaking it into the awareness component, so the headline, the profile photo, the cover photo, the information and consideration component, which is your summary or your experience, and then the decision or the CTA. This would be how a landing page would work if you were attracting individuals to a landing page in hopes of them finally, hitting that CTA, that call to action, submitting their email, and signing up for a demo or whatnot. This would be the same thing that you would do for your website. We're just going to emulate that on your LinkedIn profile so that it achieves a desired business objective or result. So starting off with awareness. And remember, these are examples. These are obviously very prolific LinkedIn individuals, and they all have their own desired objective or result for what they're trying to use their LinkedIn profile for. So it may not be the exact same as what you're doing, but understand the concept. So awareness, what are we doing? So we have our header profile, our header image that's telling people what they do, what they want the people who are checking out their profile to go do. And it's discussing, maybe it's, speaking about some accolades that your company has achieved, offering some social proof. It's telling them exactly what you want the audience to do when they see your profile. Or, for example, it's just validating what you say you do as an organization or as an individual. So these people all have their own personal brands. For a business, a B2B play, you would probably be speaking about, for example, what your software solution does. Or if you have reps, or if you even, I could say like, go sign up for a webinar, or go to www.product.com for a free demo. Anything that basically reinforces what you want the customer to do. And this is going to be reinforcing what you're going to be sending out to the customer in your messaging. Other components, of course, the basics. You want to have a clear profile picture that shows your face, nothing too complex. That's a pretty basic LinkedIn 101 thing. But then also you'll reinforce what you're doing or what you want people to be doing in that small little blurb of text at the top of your profile. So a lot of people put their job, they'll say, Scott, VP sales, whatnot. That's fine, but it's better if you actually discuss what you're doing. So Shay's a really good example of this. She says, I turn individuals and companies into content creating machines to generate growth, leads, and revenue on LinkedIn. I would say if you're an organization, you say exactly what your marketing tech solution does, or exactly what your legal solution does, or exactly what you do for a certain audience segment that you want to target, so that when people hit your profile, they see who you are, they're attracted to your header, so they see what you want them to accomplish, and then you're just sort of reiterating what you do as an individual in your text at the top of your profile. So now this would be the top of your LinkedIn profile, similar to the top of a website where you have all this information, and you're trying to get people to, do something or engage with you in some way or book a demo. You keep going through the profile. Another thing that you can do, this is more about LinkedIn SEO. If you are targeting certain individuals, include those words that those individuals, those keywords that those individuals would be searching for in your LinkedIn profile, in that little text blurb at the top. So for example, if I was looking for, I think this clip was cut off a little bit. I can't, I think the search term, I can't remember what the search term was for this particular piece. There was a search term that I wanted to show you, but I think the image got cut off. So if you were doing, let me actually see if I can show you live. That's probably even better. Let me pull up LinkedIn and I'll show you live what I mean. So let me go over here to my LinkedIn. So if I go to marketing.
I think you don't need a makeshift one though.
Yeah, you can probably buy a proper one, but
What's wrong with welding one?
well, I don't know.
So if I look at marketing,
Knows his stuff. If he told us,
Andre, do you want to mute?
He told us that we could weld it, or we could buy one that was similar.
So just make sure that if you want to target marketers, or if you want to target, for example, CFOs, there's something in the byline of your profile that when people look you up, you're also going to populate in search results. So that's just a small little component. Like if you, for example, like I gave you a piece here that said, I turn individuals and companies into content creating machines to generate growth, leads, and revenue on LinkedIn. This is perfect to describe what you do, but you'll also notice that she put in LinkedIn video coach. So that's the type of content she creates, but she put in a couple keywords here: video marketing, life coaching, public speaking. So if somebody's looking for video marketing or LinkedIn video marketing, she'll populate in the search results. So keep that in mind. So I would say that this would be, I actually think out of all of them, they all have their own little, they have benefits to each one. But for a B2B example, this that Shay's put together is probably the best. And you can incorporate other components and elements if you like for individuals trying to build up their personal brand. I would say that Michaela or Vabe are probably really good examples. But for B2B, Shay's nailed it. And this is something that I would emulate for sure. And that's my point about the SEO component of LinkedIn. I apologize for the picture being cut off. Now let's move on to information and consideration. And actually, I'll also ask Andre, do you want to pause for questions on each component, or do you want to just go through and then we can have questions after?
I feel that you can present this section and then we can ask people if they have questions, so you can answer all the questions, in a bunch. So
okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so this component, the information and consideration. So this piece is obviously right below your main profile, where it speaks about what you're doing. This is your LinkedIn resume, so to speak. Or if it's a business play, then this would be discussing what you're doing as an organization. And because you're a person, I would still suggest that you have some personal components here. But of course, you want to speak about your accolades, why the person should care about who you are, but then you also want to speak about what you do. Because again, we're trying to achieve a business objective here. So Michaela does a really wonderful job of this. She speaks about who she is. She speaks about her own personal story. This is something that allows me to, she just humanizes herself. It allows me to understand a little bit more about her as an individual. And then as we go down on this larger section, I can see what she actually does for a living. I can see, if I want to contact her, what services, or again, B2B, what products, for example, I would want to reach out to her about. So this is probably something that a lot of us can emulate, so that when people hit our profile, they hit that header, they want to learn more, they start to learn more, they learn a little bit about us, but then you can see that there is a sales play. There is a product positioning play further down her profile that she's obviously taking advantage of. So it's not complex. It's very straightforward. And this is one example that you could probably work with and integrate into your own persona, who you are as an individual or an executive within an organization, but also look at how she's positioned products, look at what she's actually selling in her profile, and put that in your actual profile, so that when people go and read more into you, they're going to want to purchase something from you, or they're going to have at least understand that they can purchase something from you. And lastly, after the information and consideration, there's the decision, or the CTA. I brought Shay back up again because she does it quite well at the bottom, but also I'm going to actually go back for the decision of the CTA and highlight a portion of Michaela's profile. So for the CTA, you are telling people what you want them to do, right? On a website, you're telling people to download an ebook, sign up for a webinar, book a demo. The CTA would be at the bottom of your profile. It's telling people, well, Michaela's telling people to email her if they want to work together, because now they know what she does. She has a Calendly link to book a call. Let's scroll over to the Shay example. For Shay, she's saying very clearly, subscribe to my podcast. This could be book a demo. This could be sign up for a webinar. You integrate for a B2B reason, your marketing, your current marketing CTA or whatever your marketing team's trying to get you to sign up for into the actual LinkedIn profile. So again, this is actually setting yourself up to achieve a business objective. And the best people that do this, it's funny. The best people that do this are people that are building their own brand. And that's why, to be quite honest, I actually see more individuals that work outside of organizations really nailing the information and then the call to action than I do with people that work within organizations. So, my ask of everybody on this call is to set that precedent, like be the person who is doing a really good example of this in a B2B space. Because right now, this is something that's driving traffic for Shay, driving leads for Shay, but this could be incredibly impactful in a B2B organization if done properly. So that's what I want to see more of. That's what I'm trying to convince my sales team to do. And also, I'll be honest, it's not comfortable for people. Like sometimes they have a hard time putting themselves out there. So it's something that, it's brick by brick, baby steps to get people to update, to get people to write a little bit, to get people to put a call to action, to get people to brand a little bit. It's something that is slightly uncomfortable for people that have never done it before. But again, like whenever you're trying to get somebody to do something in an organization, you will never be successful if you just tell them to do it without giving them any rhyme or reason or rationale. The best way to get somebody to do something in an organization is to show them how what they're doing is helping them achieve something that they hold dear. That's a personal or professional accomplishment for them, excuse me. So if I was going to try and get a sales rep to do this and they were having trouble generating leads on LinkedIn, I would just ask them to try it for a week, see if they start getting more, qualified leads, which in turn would generate more demos or generate more, more revenue for them. And that would help them actually achieve something. And once they start to see that it's actually impacting them positively, then it's not so much of a hard sell to get them to do it long term. So this is basically the LinkedIn funnel. This is how you would set up your profile so that when people are hitting your profile, researching you, researching your company, there's a higher chance they're going to convert because of all those three components that are all set up to achieve that desired business objective. So let's pause there for a quick second, because that's a really good place to just take some questions about profile optimization, anything that I just discussed, any problems that people, are having, really getting on board with this idea. So let's chat about it now, and then we can go into some content ideas that Andre can discuss.
Yeah, there are some questions in the chat, so check the latest from Damian, from Cynthia, and from Steph. So the first one is about SSI score. Does it affect the LinkedIn search engine optimization?
No, to the best, from what I know, the SSI is an internal LinkedIn measurement. I think the things that actually, and this is not proven because I do not have access to the LinkedIn algorithm, but from my experience, it would be whether or not you're a first connection with the individual, and how many of your connections are shared. That's the one thing that I've seen actually drive LinkedIn SEO. So you're more like, if I type in marketing, I'm going to see marketers that I'm a first connection with, as well as the individuals that I have the most mutual connections with. I've never actually seen a huge difference for SSI. Even like following, I don't think it makes a huge difference, because when I pull marketing on my LinkedIn, I do not, I am first connections with some like LinkedIn influencers, but I don't see them first when I type in marketing. I see people that I'm, so if I'm going to look right now, actually, let me see, let's test it out. I'm going to see who I pull up. So if I pull marketing, keeping in mind that I am first connections with Shay, with Michaela, I'm not seeing them, I'm seeing people that I have the most mutual connections with. I actually am not sure why it's pulling these individuals. I think it's shared connections. That seems to be the most likely measurement that it I guess prioritizes individuals by. And I think that there also is, these are all these are senior individuals. But let's see if I go, so these are senior individuals. So it's, what it's prompting me to do? I'm just sort of understanding this as you just asked that question, because I've never thought about it like that before. It's prompting me to connect with people that I most likely already have some sort of business relationship with, because you'll notice that I'm not actually connected to Suzanne or Kellen Smith here, but it's saying that I have a lot of shared connections. So there's a good chance that I know them, but I don't think that's based on SSI. I could be wrong, but that's not something that's so apparent to me. Okay, headline. Yes. So headline and about sections are the most important real estate on your LinkedIn profile for sure. Because if I go to, let me go to my, actually I'll have to look at somebody else's, because I'll see my full profile if I go to my full profile. So let me go to somebody else's. Let's go to, actually, I'll find you a good example. Okay, so this gentleman, Justin, he does LinkedIn quite well. Now he is a solopreneur, but I would actually say that this particular piece, I would add a little bit more to it. But you can see that for the about section, I just wanted to show you how it's presented to somebody who's viewing your profile for the first time. So the first two lines are the ones that are supposed to draw you in, right? These are the two lines that are supposed to get you to want to read more. So there was a comment about it being too long. I would say that yes, those were long examples, but if somebody is interested in what you do, I would say that it doesn't matter if it's a little bit longer, if it's helping them understand more about you. But that's why the first two lines are very important, to clearly articulate why you should care more about this person. So this is actually a very short example, but this would be probably a slightly scaled down version of somebody who I want to research more about. He has like a very impressive first two lines. You click see more. There's a short little paragraph about what he does. And then if you want to follow, there's a CTA at the end. Let me try and find a B2B example for you, because I know that was also a question. No, that's not a good one. I'll try and find a good B2B example for you.
You can use Casey Graham from Gravy Payments, or Kyle Coleman from Clary, for example. And he's from sales. That would be a good example, I feel.
See, what he's talking about is a good B2B example for the about section with the CTA. Let me think who would be a good one. Let me look through some of the leaders that I have access to, and let me see who's done a good B2B example. It's funny, as you were asking me that, I realized as I was doing the presentation, a lot of these were individuals and not like organizational leaders. So let me actually look through a few and get you a good B2B example so you can see.
I can share, meanwhile, if you want, I can share an example of one of our clients. And this is like not sales leader or whatever. He doesn't have like a huge following, but that would be a really good example of optimized profile. Does it make sense?
Yeah, go for it, for sure. Because you're going to take over the share anyway. So I'll stop sharing now and you can go ahead and share. And then let me just go through some of the other questions. So
yeah, first of all, I will quickly share my profile, and I want to wrap up what Scott said. Basically, you need to treat your LinkedIn profile as your landing page. So you need to have a social proof, you need to have positioning, you need to have a clear call to action, and you need to have a clear copy. So when a person visits your LinkedIn profile, it should be clear what you do, what audiences, what markets you serve, and what benefits can you bring in. So take a look on my example. So you have a branded cover with our positioning and some social proof of companies that we have helped to grow with our, let's say, motto, less leads, more revenue, and our positioning, full funnel marketing for B2B companies with complex and long sales cycles. Then you have a clear bio. So I say that we provide full funnel account-based marketing consulting for B2B tech and service companies. And then there was a question, should your bio be long or short? And I will give you 2 examples. So in my case, I prefer to keep it really short and sweet. So basically, I want to say, if you are visiting my profile, I want to make it clear, what can you expect from me? How can I help you? And basically, I started literally simple, saying, what can I do for you? And you can see exactly what I can help you with. And some social proof, some case studies, etc. And then I finish it with a case study of ABM campaign that generated 300K in revenue and some stats, as you can see. So it's, you know, if you are interested in ABM, if you are considering launching ABM programs, then you can say, okay, this probably makes sense to me. And in our case, this is a key step, you know, towards our sales process. So people would love to check this case study, see the comprehensive knowledge, etc., and then they might be reaching us out. So, and let me quickly share with you another example, which I mentioned. So this is an example of Pavel, who is a customer of fullfunnel.io. And then you can see a simple branded cover, Hedgeways award-winning corporate currency management software. So it's clear what it is. Then we have this clear, let's say, section. We help CFOs to prevent losses caused by currency volatility and implement an automated hedging strategy. So it's literally tailored to one particular job role and one particular market. And then we have this example. So where we are talking about the challenges and target audience of Hedgeways has, like CFOs, treasurers, corporate finance teams. We mentioned their challenges and we mentioned the benefits they can get from software. And then we simply ended up with a clear statement. Want to see Hedgeways in action? Feel free to schedule a demo call or check the overview of the platform. So that's
These are actually awesome B2B examples. Thanks, Andre, for pulling those up quickly.
Yeah, that's my pleasure. So let me quickly check if there are any examples, any questions. My perspective on followers and views, I think too many obsess of vanity metrics. That's, you know, it depends on what you want to sell. For me personally, I use always to say, like, take a look on Pavel's example. He has like probably less than 1,000 connections, but it doesn't prevent him to make businesses, to generate business opportunities from LinkedIn, because his market is really narrow and he doesn't need to have thousands of followers, obviously. And the same is, my perspective is the same. So I was running fullfunnel.io 2 years without having a website, and I had like less than 3,000 followers, and you see where we are nowadays. So that's not really the key point. My point, and that was a question of Diane, my point is very straightforward. You should be a thought leader and expert for your narrow market. And if this market is limited to 1,000 companies, that's absolutely fine. That's it. So that's my perspective. Audience growth is usually a consequence of all of your actions, you know, that's it. So regarding the questions about the bio size, I just shared with you 2 examples. So you decide. You can keep it short and sweet like mine, or you can describe the challenges and the solutions like I shared with you in this case. So it's up to you. Both options, you know.
Can I offer some advice on that too?
Yeah, of course.
Just one point. I would say that what would be best is to test. Like anything, you have to test what your market is responsive to. So I don't think that the examples that are a little bit longer are horrible. I can understand where you are coming from with the fact that they could be considered a little bit long. So perhaps maybe a short and sweet with at least some call to action, a short description plus call to action could work better. But that being said, I think the smartest thing would be to understand that there should be context plus call to action and then A/B test that messaging so that you can see if longer messaging provides more details. Maybe that's something that resonates with the buyer. If shorter messaging prompts a call to action for perhaps maybe a non-enterprise product that doesn't require as much information, maybe that resonates better. You know, if you're selling like, you know, cheap SaaS products that you just want people to sign up for free, maybe you just highlight the problem that you're solving with a CTA to go try a product for free. You know, no credit card required, go sign up right now, and you're going to get some traffic from that. And you should be able to see if there's referral traffic coming in through Google Analytics from LinkedIn. So, and I would put like a UTM tag or even like use Bitly or something like that to create a link so that you can actually see if it's working. But I think that to have a blanket statement too long, too short, it's ignorant. It has to be based on what works best for your market, but know that those components, that information plus call to action does work. And I just wanted to add one more point about people don't like speaking to sales reps. Nobody likes speaking to sales reps ever. People hate speaking to sales reps. So the whole point of this is to make people like the sales rep so that when the sales rep does reach out to you, that person has seen that sales rep's content for the past year and they like that person. They like that person from afar. I pulled up one example quickly on my screen, a sales rep from Gong. I'm going to make sure that I pronounce her name correctly. So she doesn't do the about profile and the full funnel like we just described perfectly the way that I think it should be done, but that's my opinion. And, you know, you have to see if it works for you. But Sarah Brazier on LinkedIn is incredible at creating content that resonates with her audience. She started as an SDR at Gong. She's now an account executive at Gong. And she posts all the time. So maybe her inbound funnel, like we just described, isn't optimized perfectly. But that being said, her content strategy is on point. And she's built a following of people that like who she is from her content on LinkedIn. And that's a great example of personal brand via content on LinkedIn in a B2B environment. And when she reaches out to individuals who are her target customers, you can be damn sure that they've already seen her someplace on LinkedIn and they've probably read some of her pieces of content, some of her posts. And that creates, again, that level of trust before you even engage. So if you see the people who are your respected peers like her things, comment on her stuff, you're not going to be turned off, because the reason why people are turned off from sales reps is because there's no trust yet. They don't know who they are. They don't know if they're full of it or if they're actually trying to help them. So if you see somebody who is speaking to, you know, executives at other organizations, peers at other organizations that you already have respect for, perhaps you know them, there's going to be less of a wall when she is trying to build that relationship with you. So yes, if you go outbound without anybody knowing who you are, you're just going to be a sales rep. And there's going to be that adverse reaction to sales reps unless they're an incredible sales rep. But the whole point is to do this so that when you reach out to somebody in a year from now, they'll already know who you are, right? That's the point of this.
Can you please share meanwhile?
I'm going to give a link. Yeah, that's correct.
That's perfect.
So yes, I can send over, let me just send a link to everyone.
And basically, that's the reason, you know, why we're explaining sales should be involved into demand generation. This is what Scott is regularly sharing on LinkedIn, you know, saying that more and more sales leaders should be involved into demand generation. Basically, that's what I mean by saying that you should be perceived as a thought leader in your narrow market. It doesn't matter if you have hundreds of thousands of followers or you are just followed by, you know, target job roles from your target accounts. But if you are delivering the value, I mean, the content that is helping this audience, that's enough to generate consistently opportunities, I mean, sales qualified opportunities for your business. So let's dive into Allbound marketing. Basically, there was a good comment in the chat by Thorstein. He said that brand plus outbound is a fantastic opportunity. And this is actually what we mean by Allbound marketing. I personally hate spam. You know how it smells, you know, person connects with you and just in a moment, hey, Andre, would you like to buy from me? Would you like to have a demo call or whatever? Of course, nobody wants. You know, what's let you to think that I have a need or I have a desire to have a call with you. But basically, when your outbound is based on the engagement, on the intent data, when you know that you were connected with the people and they might have potential need, they demonstrated an interest in your services or in your products, then it absolutely makes sense to reach them out, but not with a generic message saying, hey, this is what we are doing, or this is what our product, does. It's not about these generic messages, but then you are reaching out, suggesting a help with a particular question or with a particular challenge. So basically how the LinkedIn Allbound marketing looks like. I described this topic in the last webinar with Ricardo, ABM on LinkedIn, so I just briefly move through that slide. So we have the top of the funnel activities. We are proactively connecting and engaging with the buying committee of our target accounts. So this is basically a part of our account-based marketing processes. Next, we have awareness and nurturing content, the content that answers the questions your audience might have. And then you can apply, it's optional. It's not, let's say, in scope of this webinar, but then you can accelerate your results or ramp up your game with awareness and nurturing ads. But let's leave ads aside in this webinar. And then, this activity generates you multiple opportunities to start conversations. Basically, when people are engaging with your content, you can always reach out, you can always start conversations, this is, again, I shared multiple examples on the previous webinars of how to run these convos. And this actually opens, the doors. You can ask qualification questions about the strategy, the goals, or whatever. You can share the middle of the funnel content. I will share some examples with you how to do it. And as well, you can check past webinars on this topic. So you can share some case studies if you saw that, people were engaging with the content about, any specific topic where you share the results or the things you can do with your product, basically your case studies. You can then proactively reach out and delivering this content to them. And then you need to track the buying signals, basically the intent data when these people are visiting your, let's say, product or service pages, when they are posting on LinkedIn saying, this is what we need help with or whatever. Again, we'll share with you some examples. And then you can run this personalized outreach to activate these accounts and generate sales qualified opportunities. This is actually the way how you can build this Allbound, let's say, machine. Let me quickly overview the demand gen funnel. So first of all, again, keep in mind, we are connecting with the buying committee and engaging with their content. Next, usually these people will accept your connection request. They might visit your LinkedIn profile, and that's why we need to have an optimized LinkedIn profile, what Scott was sharing with you. They might, they might visit your profile and visit your website. They might engage with your content. And basically, these are the engagement triggers. This is something that opens you doors to, to move forward with the conversations. You can record a personalized video, a message, or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not about video. It's not about, the silver bullets, obviously. Then you can, again, you can start these conversations. If you see an opportunity, then you can share some meaningful content with these people. And it shouldn't be only the content of, of your company. You can share the recording of this webinar. You can share any articles that might be helpful to these people. And this is basically how you involve these people into conversation. And we usually used to share the content hubs because content hubs helps you to capture the demand. You see if people are consuming the content, where exactly they stopped, you see how much time they spent inside, if they are sharing, the content hub inside the organization. This is the best actually way to capture this demand. And when you see it, you can, you can just do a highly personalized outreach saying something. I know if you guys might have some questions about, let's say, about demand generation on LinkedIn, let's jump into call. I will share with you some ideas how you can implement it at your company. And that's it. That's an example of proactive, let's say, demand generation funnel. So there is always a question like how how should I grow my audience, and should I connecting only with, let's say, executives, with my ICP? And ICP is just a part of your audience. You have 3 more groups you should be connecting with. First of all, these are engagers. These are people that are highly active. They might like your content, but these people will never buy from you. And the reason why you should be connecting with these people, because usually they are connected with your ICPs as well. And the reason why you need to connect with them, because they can boost your content. They can boost the reach of your content. And when they engage with your content, this is how LinkedIn algorithm works. If they engage with your content, then your content appears in the newsfeed of your ICPs. Basically, you can open your newsfeed and you'll see lots of content from the second and the third connections, from the people with who you are not connected. But you see this content just because somebody of your first connections engaged with this content. That's why you need to connect with these people. Next, event organizers. So basically, these are the people that can, invite you to their podcasts, featuring you in their blogs, invite you to some market events, etc. So basically, you'll get access to their audience. And finally, co-pilots. Basically, co-pilots are people who are working with the same audience, but selling different solutions or different products. Basically, example of today webinar is an example of 2 co-pilots. So we are working, Scott is in sales, I'm in marketing, but we are serving the same B2B audience. That's an example of this audience. So that's why you should have all these audiences in your connection. And this is actually the social proof. I basically wrote a post about this topic, why you should be connecting with this audience. And aside from regularly appearing in the newsfeed of your target accounts, you can build a strong brand, you can build this real relationship, because these people will be recommending you as well. You can generate and capture the demand, and as well you can educate and nurture target market. That's the goal. And on the right side, you can see a screenshot basically from my newsfeed, where I see the content of people with who are not connected, but because, for example, Gaetano, Dinar, they engaged with that content, I see this content in my newsfeed. So that's an example why you need to connect with these 4 groups. And now I want to focus heavily on the most complicated question. This is like from the survey I have done this week. This is the top 1 voted challenge. You guys actually share it with me. So how to develop a content strategy? First of all, keep in mind that you need to have a diversified content strategy. That means if you, let's say, if you are targeting mid-size or enterprise companies, you'll always be dealing with the buying committee with multiple people, 4, 5, 6, 7 people who might be influencing, the opportunity. So that's why people inside your company should be, nurturing or targeting with their content different buying committee members. Of course, if you are just one person who is doing demand generation, then choose one job role, but avoid being one size fits all. Avoid talking to everybody. Your content strategy should be devoted to one specific job role. This is critical. And basically, to create this content strategy, you need to start with a map of informational needs. This is what I call, I used to call that way a document, where you can collect actually all the questions your audience might have about your product, about your market in general, and basically the topics that they are truly interested in, and your product is somehow related to this, to these topics. And when you have this document, you'll avoid wasting hours on writing and publishing content that nobody cares about. And if you have this document, you'll avoid being stuck with a question, what should I write next? So if we'll take a look on this example, you can see a map of informational needs for CTO, let's say. And you see the topic clusters like skills, trends, team and project management, security, product management, etc. And inside you see a bunch of let's say, smaller topics that are related to these big topic clusters. So in my case, it could be, lead generation, account-based marketing, marketing strategy, lead nurturing, etc., demand generation. So these are big topic clusters. And let's say if we are covering LinkedIn, demand generation in general, I have like specific questions like how to create a content strategy, how to start social selling, how to set up my team, how to launch a pilot project, etc. And if you'll check my profile and if you'll see my posts, you'll see that I'm always answering these questions. That's an example of using this document. So basically, how can you create the map of informational needs? 4 key steps here. Analyze engagement and the influencer posts, because usually these people have your target audience, and you can always find these people on LinkedIn, or you can do a Google search, type in something like top B2B marketing influencers or whatever, just apply your market. Next, make a list of questions people ask in target communities. Next one, ask your customers what topics are they interested in. And I believe this is the most powerful way to learn the questions they have. So you'll be able just simply answering the questions your customers have. So for this purpose, you need to host in-depth customer interviews. So you need to call your customers and ask this. And finally, check the industry conferences and webinars topics. As you can see, for example, for this webinar, I feel that we have around 80 people online, and there were around 200 signups. And, we always promote our webinars organically, so we don't bring the cold audience. And this is a great example. So 200 people are interested in. You can check this chat, what questions you guys are asking. And that's the best example, to collect these questions and add them to your map of informational needs. And the same principles you can apply to any given market. So let me share with you some practical examples. Influencers, posts, and questions in the comments. So first of all, you can see, okay, so let's take a look on Gaetano. So he was sharing about something like, I feel it was about search engine optimization, or maybe something different, but doesn't matter. So then we can move to the comment section, and we see the question people asking. Why don't salespeople ask how their customers buy versus how they are comfortable selling? That's it. Save this question, add this to your map of informational needs, and then simply answer that question. That's the easiest way to create a really great content that will resonate with these people. And then you can simply reach out, how to build the first engagement. Let's pretend this guy Dan belongs to a target audience. Then you can reach out to this person and say, hey, Dan, your question on the Gaetano's post inspired me to write this, post. This is what I mean by proactive distribution and starting conversations. This is actually the beginning of social selling. I thought that you might love my post. Here is the link, and that's it. This is how you involve people into content consumption. This is how you attract their attention. Now, analyze popular industry virtual events. Basically, I told you can collect if you are serving B2B companies, B2B tech companies, B2B SaaS, etc. And maybe you are selling LinkedIn solutions or marketing solutions or whatever, marketing services. You can collect the questions people were asking today, and just simply start answering these questions. This is an example of a webinar by Sales Hacker. So you can see simply the questions they are discussing. We will provide you with a winning formula to qualification calls, including crucial questions to ask, which KPI to consider and analyze, and why you should let your prospect to do most of the talking. Now you see, Sales Hackers events are usually full of people. And this means, that this is exactly what people are interested in. That's the easiest way. Next, you can analyze platforms like Quora. Again, I'm just giving examples. I'm not saying these are silver bullets, you need to find your own platforms. So on Quora, you can always find out what questions people are asking and just add these questions to a map of informational needs. Analyze questions target audience asks in industry communities like this one. So, if you are serving B2B sales and marketing folks, you can join Revenue Genius community. You can join my B2B marketers and founders community. And you can see what questions people are asking in these communities. And these communities, in some industries, there are still old-fashioned forums, so that's that's indeed a case. So in some narrow markets, in old-fashioned markets, you can still find old-fashioned forums where people asking questions, and that's the best way to find the insights for a content strategy. Analyze topics of popular posts in target communities. So you can see the posts that resonated with people, where people are engaging, leaving comments, liking this post. That means that people are interested in this topic. So again, that could be an idea for your next post. And again, if I can give you one best advice, interview your customers. Just set up a call with your best customers and ask questions like, what tech websites do you regularly visit? What tech thought leaders do you follow? In which tech communities are you an active member? This is basically how you can define what platforms you should be leveraging and on what platforms you should be looking for the information to develop in your map of informational needs. At the same time, you can ask questions, what questions did you have when you were considering the products like ours? And this is how you can identify the questions, let's say, that belong to bottom of the funnel, to the sales process. So you can answer these questions as well. You can ask question, did you consider any alternative? And this is how you can learn more about the competitors, and you can create the comparison reports or whatever. And you'll actually, from these in-depth customer interviews, you'll get priceless insights. So that's the best way to learn. Now, let's say you have created this map of informational needs. The second step is developing your content plan and setting up your team. So before you'll start, you need to agree on, in-house, agree on 4 key questions. Authors, who will create a content or provide expertise? Because in some cases, you might have an imposter syndrome, saying that, okay, I don't have writing skills, so I don't want to, to write the content, or I don't have time for this, or whatever. So you can find an in-house expert who will be working with external copywriter. So basically, the procedure will be the next. You need to set up calls 1 time per week, 1 time in 2 weeks, or just 1 time per month with the external copywriter. Share the list of ideas, share the expertise, what should be inside the post, and then request copywriter to create a content for you. So that can be a solution as well. No excuses on not doing demand generation. There is always a solution. But basically, you need to agree who will be creating the content. Should it be done in-house, or let's say, should you outsource this process? And who will be sharing the expertise? Next, frequency. How often will you post per week? My optimal amount, or my suggestion, is posting 2-3 times using a mix of expertise and engagement content. And yeah, there is no requirement to post every day, just to make it clear. But consistency and frequency are crucial. The same like going to gym, you can go 1 time per month, and spend 2 hours doing different physical exercises. But basically, you won't be able to expect, that your muscles will grow, or if you go into, to get rid of your belly, that won't happen, unfortunately. So if you want to have a consistent results, you should be going to gym 2-3 times per week and do it consistently. The same with demand generation. Next one, project manager. Who will coordinate and manage the entire project? Who will collect the analytics? Who will control the vendors if you are going to outsource the process? Because the old famous quote by Peter Drucker, he told that if you are not measuring your activities, and if nobody is in charge, or if nobody owns the project, then it will suck at one time. So this is critical here. And finally, content formats. Will you produce video, slides, or text posts only? There are, again, no requirements that you should be posting video only, or slides, or text. So whatever you prefer, just stick to that format. And what should be the proportion between the formats? So actually, here is how the team setup might look like. Just a quick example. Let's say you have CEO, you have head of sales, and you have marketer. And then you agree that CEO works with external copywriter and on plain texts, but 2 times per month, CEO will record videos, and the topics and the target job roles for your CEO are other executives. And the topics this person will be talking about are marketing strategy, lead generation, etc. This is just a draft example. Next, head of sales, the same. He's working with external copywriter, and 2 times per month he or she will be recording the videos, and they're targeting head of sales. And as you can see, topics are completely different: sales tips, sales processes, managing sales teams, etc. And this is how you are penetrating inside your target accounts. And next, finally, marketer. So marketer is going to just write plain posts, plain text posts, share 4 times per month videos, and 2 times per month post on the slides. And this is an example of setup. This is something that you should agree in-house. Next, the proportion. So my ideal proportion, this is what I noticed is working for me, for Vlad, my co-founder, and for our clients. The 40-40-20 framework for content planning. Basically, it means that 40% of your posts are expertise posts, like something, the screenshot, you can see the example of this post on the screenshot. So let's say 3 funnels every B2B organization needs. And this is an example of expertise post. 40% of engagement posts, something like, here are my top 10 people that consistently deliver top-notch actionable content on LinkedIn. And this is holistical. And basically, in this case, you are tagging marketing leaders. And again, you are delivering value to your target audience because you are recommending good people to follow on LinkedIn. That's just one example, of course. And the reason why we should have a mix of these posts, because engagement posts usually have a better outreach, and this helps you to grab more attention of your target audience. So that's why there should be an equal proportion between them. And finally, something like product offer or offer posts. It's not a pitch, just to make it clear. It's not a pitch, but it's something that is related to a product or services. Let's say you can promote a case study, you can share a use case of your customer or whatever. This is an example of product or offer posts. So when you have everything in place, then content plan creation should be really easy. You need just to, take a look on your map of informational needs, and according to this framework, map out the posts for the upcoming week. If you're going to share content 3 times per week, then do it like this: 1 expertise post, 1 engagement post, and 1, let's say, product/service post or whatever. So that's an example of how it might look like. And then a content plan will never be an issue for you. So just, let's say, agree in-house that a content planning will be done on Friday, on Monday, or whatever. Just block it in your calendar, and then it will happen. Now let's talk about daily routine, because that's a question quite often people asking me, like, okay, how my daily operation should look like. So my suggestion, again, this is something that you need to discuss internally. And let's say an examples of your daily routine should be, let's say, 10 to 30 personalized connection requests with 4 audiences: engagers, ICPs, co-pilots, and event organizers. You can share 1 post. Again, this is not like a recommendation. This is just an example. And let's say 3 to 10 valuable comments to posts of 4 audiences. And the reason why I add comments, because this is the easiest way to get this visibility, to attract the attention to yourself. Next, examples of personalized connection requests. So it can be video, it can be something that you check the profile. I know that Scott will share lots of examples a little bit later. So you are checking the profile, you are checking the, posts that were shared by the company or by that person, and you find some, some things that you can use for the personalization. That's the key for success. 1 post following 40-40-20 framework. This is something that I shared again. And value-added comments. quite often people say you need just to comment, on the influencer's posts. But keep in mind, you need to comment on the content of the 4 audiences I have shared with you. And it's not about influencers only. And with ICPs, it's the easiest way to grab their attention. And the key point here, never post something, wow, what a great content. It's just spot on. It's like, I love this content or whatever. I agree with you. This is like the worst comment that you can leave. If you're going to leave a comment, make it meaningful. Something like will be a value added comments, something like this. This is actually, I believe this was a post of Thorstein, who is on this webinar. And this is an example of the comments. I will add one critical thing besides the consistency, content quality. And you can see this is the reason why you should be leaving these meaningful comments. Because again, you can, after this webinar, you can open your newsfeed and you'll see one key thing, that you see the first 3 lines of the post, and then you see the first comment. And LinkedIn usually shares with you the most relevant comment. And the most relevant comment usually is the comment that gets the most engagement. And that's why the more engagement, the more reach has the post, the better chances people will see you. That's the easiest way to get this visibility. So that's why I always think about the value you can add in the comments. Now you have built your profile, you have posted content, how align it with Outbound. And this is the part of Scott. Meanwhile, let me quickly, I will, just a second, I will stop sharing my screen and let me check the questions. And let me ask a quick question, guys. How do you like the webinar so far? Is it valuable for you? Did you find some insights? Just share in the comments. And meanwhile, I will check the questions you were asking.
Let's take a look at the questions. I'll just take a quick second to pause. And I know that this webinar, I think some people dropped off at the hour. I think it was booked for an hour and a half. I will try and not bore you too much with this last section and just go through it briefly, but I do want to answer questions because those are really good questions. I'll answer one very quickly. How is reach measured? So reach is measured in a variety of ways. Of course, yes, comments and likes is one way to measure reach, but LinkedIn has a specific reach measurement, I guess, algorithm that's a little bit different than some others' profiles. It measures something called linger time. And what that means is it's not just somebody likes or comments on your post, it's the amount of time they actually spend on your post. And this is why you actually see some posts that use carousels, PDF carousels or slides, slide decks, whatever you want to call them. That's why you see some of them do quite well, because when somebody sees a slide deck, for example, it's maybe 5 slides long, it takes them a few seconds to go through every single slide. LinkedIn understands that, and it shows that there's linger time on that post or dwell time. I can't remember if it's called dwell time or linger time. And then it will show that to a wider group of your audience, right? It'll show that post to a larger group of your audience, because usually how it works when you look at how any social platform measures and measures the reach that it's going to give your post is you post something, the platform will show it to maybe 5 or 10% of your audience. It'll gauge how much likes, comments, shares, and in the case of LinkedIn, dwell or linger time that post receives, and then it'll show it to a larger group. Then it will show it to a larger group, and so on and so forth. So that's actually that's pretty standard. But if you want to, of course, the least useful vanity metric would be a like, but it's still one metric. Then the next one would be a comment. Comment and shares are probably very similar. And then the third most valuable one on LinkedIn in particular would be dwell time or linger time. So if you can structure your post that you get people to pause, to read it for a second, and to comment, that would be the best possible option. And that's also why you see some individuals, they put call to actions at the bottom of their post saying, it may seem cheesy, but they say like, do you agree? Or what do you think? Or whatever. the reason why they're doing that is to prompt people to actually comment. Now, you can have opinions about whether or not that fits, and that's something you want to do, but there's a reason why people do that, right? So it does work to some extent. Okay, so let's see. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, I can quickly jump in. So
Yeah.
there was a question, how do you track that a specific person visited your product page if you don't yet have the email or other data? So basically what I was referring to, LinkedIn shows you who has visited your profile. This is what I was referring to. So you can see who exactly visited your profile, but you need to have LinkedIn Sales Navigator or premium account to see this data, or you can install IP identification software like Happier Leads, Lead Feeder, Albacross, that is tracking by IP what accounts visited your website. So that's a source of intent data you can use. Next one was a question by Brittany about the budget in LinkedIn campaigns. And basically 2 weeks ago, I did a webinar I already mentioned with Ricardo from Upstrust. He's running paid acquisition campaigns and in charge of LinkedIn ads. So if you'd be interested, just ping me on LinkedIn. I will share with you the recording, so you'll see the answer to your question. Next one was a question by Benjamin about what happens if we have very little customers to interview. So in this case, I have like probably the best ever solution I have ever seen. Just start your own podcast and start inviting your target audience to the podcast and start asking these questions. That's the lowest hanging fruit. This is the easiest way to learn it. Again, the same, you can join the target communities, you can engage with the people inside, and you can invite community members and interview them. So these are the best sources of insights for you. I mean, of course, people that fit your ideal customer profile. And yeah, the question about reach, you answered it already. So cool. Yeah, Levin.
Okay. Do you want me to keep going?
There is one more question from Steph. You guys are very helpful. Creative insights. Okay. I'm so happy. That was our goal, to provide as much insights for you as possible. So I'm happy to hear that webinar is helpful for you. So that was our goal. Okay, giving the mic to Scott.
Okay, cool. And just to answer your question, Damjan, practices that could harm your reach. They're really actually, well, I'll name one. Including links in your posts will harm reach. Anything that takes somebody off a social profile. This applies to LinkedIn, but it applies to any social profile or any social post. If you link to another site, it will harm your organic reach. On LinkedIn as well. Unfortunately, I don't know why they've done this, but if you share somebody's post, so if somebody posts something on LinkedIn, you share it on your own profile, LinkedIn just kills that organic reach. So there's no rhyme or reason for that, in my opinion, because it's still staying on the profile. But at the very minimum, do not link off of LinkedIn. And that's why you'll see people, again, put link in first comment, right? That's because they don't want to hurt the organic reach of the post. Okay, so let's get into Outbound. I'll give you, and I just have to do one more point, 30 seconds for that podcast idea. Podcasts are great. This is what you do for a podcast, and it's more than just LinkedIn. Take your podcast, you break that down into video, audio component. Video goes to YouTube, audio goes to your podcast aggregating site. Then you have video and audio content. You take that podcast, you transcribe it, you turn it into a blog post. You take topics covered in that podcast, you answer stuff on Quora, that's content on Quora. Then you take that 30-minute podcast, break it down into 5-10-minute segments, that's video content for all your social, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can then break it down even further into like 30 or minute-long sound bites, and that could be on Twitter, if you're going on TikTok, Snapchat, Spotlight, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and of course the longer video can go on Instagram as well. So this is not a LinkedIn strategy. This is just a general content strategy. One long form blown up into 1 million of smaller, short little pieces. If the long form is a piece that really aligns with your ICP, then all the content that flows from that is all targeted towards your ICP. That's a great way to just not rack your brain over an incredible content strategy. If you don't have this, if you don't have a long form piece like that, then of course Andre had a really good solution for how to ideate on content. But that's one thing that works, as long as that long form is answering questions and relevant to your ICP. Then you can also use that and break it down across all your social. Okay, let's talk about outbound. This is not specific to LinkedIn, but it's just best practices for outbound that you can use in email as well when you're doing outbound. But these are outbound strategies that work. So this would be after you have figured out your ICP, you figured out your buyer persona. Now you have to prospect, and then you're going to reach out to these people. So the reason why we're speaking of targeting before, the reason why I love LinkedIn is because the amount of targeting options that you have available to you. These are the filtering options. So there's some that are for an unpaid version of LinkedIn, some that are paid, but like this is for B2B, this is insane. You do not get these targeting options with any other social platform, full stop. So these are your targeting. You can see why, if you're trying to target somebody to sell a B2B product for, or even non B2B products, you can just identify individuals at a level that most other platforms cannot. So that's just a quick, showing you the opportunity, the potential filtering options if you want to target, especially B2B. And this is something that works in Sales Navigator as well. I would recommend it, but of course it's a paid option. Another way, if you don't have Sales Navigator, is to Boolean searches. What is a Boolean search? Well, Boolean search is not a LinkedIn specific thing, but it's something that you can use on LinkedIn. So what you're doing is, in your search results, you are typing in the people that you want to reach out to. And there's a variety of different Boolean options. It's basically using text to get different results. Like you have a text input that gets different results, but there's certain ways that you actually type it so that, I don't know how best to describe it. Like when I'm looking for these individuals, marketing director, head of marketing, VP marketing, CMO, or chief marketing officer, the Boolean language recognizes that when I'm using capital OR in the search results for LinkedIn, I will be pulling results for all of these individuals. Or there's other Boolean identifiers like marketing director and head of marketing, which would mean in theory that I would be looking for somebody that has to have both titles in their LinkedIn profile. So obviously, if I'm looking for multiple individual decision makers, then I'm looking for an or identifier so that my search includes all of these titles. And this can be done for free. You're just doing it in your LinkedIn search. You look for people. There are ways to even include locations into your Boolean search. I think that the most that I've ever used it for would be a variety of different job titles plus a location. I cannot remember off the top of my head how to include a location in a Boolean search, but I can maybe do some research and follow up on that. Right now, I just do heads. This was sort of top of mind when I was putting together this deck. But that's a really useful tool for a free search that can pull up like the right individuals. So you don't have to do one search for marketing, one search for head of marketing, one search for VP marketing. Okay, now you're going outbound. So you're going outbound. LinkedIn is now included as part of your outbound strategy. It's not the only thing, it's included. So you've optimized your profile, you're putting out content, you're building your brand. Now you're going to go outbound against your ICP and your personas, right? So 5 to 7 touch points, 7 to 15 touch points, depends on the market. Some enterprise are much higher before you get a response, but let's try and keep it so that, we're not oversaturating, but you are reaching out across phone, email, and then you're now adding LinkedIn to your outbound cadence. You are tying the outbound messaging to the profile that you've optimized, the profile you've set up, as well as the content that you're posting, which Andre, spoke about how you have these personas and these profiles that you're creating content for. So now you have this machine, you have this landing page, which is your profile. You have this content, which is, think about like a content on LinkedIn, like blog posts on a website, and then you're going outbound on LinkedIn. It's a total other inbound funnel. And then of course the content across everything should be personalized. So two really good personalized content strategies would be pattern disruption or why you, why now. Pattern disruption was popularized by Aaron Ross, predictable revenue. And then why you, why now was popularized by Jeff Hoffman and John Barrows, two very big sales names. Walk through them very, very quickly. So what is pattern disruption? Well, if you look at the left-hand side of the screen, your initial outreach, and this is something that I do get pushback on once in a while, but this would be the initial outreach. Why is it pattern disruption? Because when you're reaching out on LinkedIn or on email, there is a ton of people pitching these executives or these stakeholders or these decision makers. So what you're doing is you're disrupting that pattern. You are not pitching them. You are basically, you're putting a note in front of them that seems very non-salesy, very to the point, very abrupt. You're forcing them to take a step back and to reevaluate, what does this person actually want? And the second you have their attention, now the pattern disrupt has done its job. It's gotten a conversation going. Whereas if I get these all the time. I get like 4 paragraph messages from people pitching me on LinkedIn. That doesn't mean anything to me. But if I got this, I would actually want to start a correspondence. So what this does, hey, first name, who's the best person to speak about such and such, marketing tech, sales tech, HR, HR training, doesn't really matter. So what that will do is it will do 2 things. It will either start a conversation saying, it's me, let's chat about it. It will give a referral saying it's John, go speak to John, not me. Or they're going to read through it and say, not interested. And then you've just disqualified the prospect anyways, which is great, instead of just BSing them and trying to get them to talk to you when they're really not even a qualified lead. So this is a simple way to get into somebody's inbox and get them to respond. I use it on email. I use it on LinkedIn. It's an extremely powerful tool. And it's simple, it's straightforward. So this is actually, this is a SDR newsletter. The guy's name's Jed Marl. He writes a really good SDR newsletter. And he put 2 examples of this being used in practice in his newsletter. So I pulled that out of his newsletter. So please go sub to his newsletter if you appreciate his strategy or his content. But he just spoke about how he's used this pattern disruption to land deals. And these are actually just screenshots from his prospecting. So he said, hey, Michael, who's the best person to speak about at so-and-so to speak about e-signatures and proposal processes? And he got an answer back. And then he said, hey, Angela, who's the best person to speak about, e-signatures? Got an answer back. If you go to his email or his newsletter, he actually lists some stats, and they're very impressive. So this is one of, he sort of repurposed his strategy from Aaron Ross, who sort of originally spoke about it. But this is actually what prompted me to bring up this in this meeting as well. Just some really good outbound prospecting strategies. And again, these are email, but it's no different from LinkedIn. So that's one example. And I hope Andre will send the deck so you can all just think about this, ruminate on it, maybe try it against what your existing outbound strategy is already like, see what the results are, A/B test, see what works better, see what your open rates, your response rates are. And if it works for you, awesome. And that'd be great to let me know. The second one, the second strategy for outbound on email or LinkedIn would be the why you, why now. So this is, again, a very popular sales strategy. And I'll explain this picture in a second. This is a story. This picture is part of a story from Kyle Porter, who is the CEO of Salesloft, who posted a blog about using the why you, why now sales strategy to land a call with Emmanuel Scala, VP Sales at Influitive. So what is why you, why now? Why you, why now is another outbound prospecting sales strategy that explains to the person receiving the email or the LinkedIn message, why am I reaching out to them and why is it relevant to them now? Why is my message relevant to them now? You nail those 2 things, plus you add a little bit of personalization, plus a call to action, and now you have a strong prospecting message. So this is the story. Kyle Porter, this is what the blog was written about. He was researching Emmanuel Scala. He saw that on her bio on the site, she listed herself as an off-the-chart extrovert. And then she also had a Twitter account where she posted a picture saying that she was part of a team called the Badasses of Needham. So he researched on the website, on Twitter. Again, one example, you can find information on your customers anywhere. And then he wrote this email. This is a sample of a why you, why now prospecting email that he actually wrote. So he said, Emmanuel, I love that comment on your bio. I bet the guys at Influitive are digging the new energy you're bringing to the team. I think we can help bring some energy in the form of more demos and appointments with your ideal targets. How does your calendar look to connect for a short web prezzo and strategic talk about sales development? Can you do sometime Wednesday June 4th, sincerely, Kyle. P.S. You'll have to fill me in on the Needham badasses sometime. So very simple. And this was the response. She sent back a response saying, oh, and P.S. She booked a meeting. She said, oh, and P.S. I sent your email to my team as a classic example of a why you, why now email. Here is what I sent to them. Good example of a why you, why now email. How do I know this? Subject was about me, personalized. Body, he connected with me with something about his company. Body, there was a very specific call to action. Remember, book a meeting Wednesday, June 4th. The body was short and sweet with an easy call to action. It was personalized, human. And he mentioned that funny little tweet that she had put out. And then at the bottom, there was a link to a video, which is just a nice to have if you have it. So very basic, 2 outbound strategies. You can research the why you, why now. It's a Googleable outbound sales strategy, or pattern disruption. It's another Googleable outbound sales strategy. I recommend that you do a little bit more research into the Kyle Porter, why you, why now email strategy, and also look into Jed Marl's email. I have no affiliation with either of them, but they both speak about really, really useful outbound strategies that you should be using on LinkedIn or email. And remember, these are examples that if you're using this on LinkedIn and you've done all the other steps to this point, you would be tying back the messaging and the way you communicate with customers to everything that you've already put on your LinkedIn profile. So that's sort of 2 strategies that I hope are useful when I bring these in front of sales leaders or marketing leaders. Some people know them already, some people don't, but I would highly recommend wherever you're going outbound that you try and use these as part of your strategy, because I've had exceptional results with them. So Andre, that's it for me for the 2 outbound strategies I wanted to speak about. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to touch on, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, we're actually out of time, and anyhow,
Good.
I hope it was valuable. So we try to share our screens, share some practical examples to make it valuable for you. If you want to get some of previous webinars where we were sharing, the LinkedIn messages, the social selling examples, reach me out on LinkedIn. I will share with you the links to the past webinars. That said, I want to give you a practical exercise that will help you to get, out maximum from this webinar and at least start your LinkedIn game. So the most easiest way, to start writing the content on LinkedIn, just make a review of this webinar, share the insights from this webinar. Like, let's say 5 things I learned from the LinkedIn Allbound webinar, or 5 things I'm going to implement in my practice, and tag me and tag Scott. Tag some people with who you were able to connect during this webinar, and you'll see the reach of this post. That's the best way. Then if you know some ICPs, that might benefit from it, reach them out and say, this is something that might be valuable for you. So just share some ideas you might implement it in your company. And this is the easiest way to move forward and to start your LinkedIn demand generation game. So that's it from my side. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the comments or jump in, so whatever you prefer. And just share with us your feedback. Was it valuable? Did you like the webinar? Did you find some fresh insights? That's the best feedback for us. And if you can switch on your camera, so I will quickly make a picture of all of us. I love to collect these pictures of all of these webinars. That would be great. So,
by the way, I just linked the sources that I pulled and just showed you. The Kyle Porter Why You, Why Now email blog, described in a little bit more detail on the Sales Loft website, and then the Pattern Disrupt by the SDR Jed Marl, described in a little bit more detail in his newsletter. I linked both of those in the chat right now. So I would suggest, if you think that these are effective strategies, and I think it would be a good idea to check them out, go do a little bit more research, because I can only hit it at a high level, but they go into a little bit more info about it. So it'd be good to go check it out.
Cool. Thanks a lot, guys, for attending this webinar. And let's stay in touch on LinkedIn. I recommend you to follow Scott. He is indeed a great leader, and he has a great podcast featuring B2B marketing and sales professionals. And yeah, if you like
thanks
B2B
everyone for
marketing
showing up.
content and account-based marketing stuff, feel free to connect with me as well. So wish you a fantastic rest of the week, and we'll stay in touch. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Bye, everyone.